What happens when you combine one of Plymouth's most celebrated artists and two movie nerds all in one show? Well, you get some pretty sweet entertainment for your drive to your kid's 7th soccer practice this week. You're listening to Open Here, a podcast produced by PAC TV. I'm Tiff Phillips. Let's get started. Hi there. Hope all is well and wonderful. We have a great show for you today. Our guest is one of Plymouth's finest, a talented gent who creates beautiful works of art. We get to chat with Mr. Eddy Murray, artist and co-owner of the art shop right here in Plymouth. All right, we're with Eddy Murray. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me, Tiff. This is a great podcast.
Oh my gosh, you're so kind. Thank you. So I've known you through Facebook a little bit. This is the first time kind of we've had an in-person interaction, so I'm really excited. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Pembroke, not far from here, South Shore. My family's from Rhode Island, and when my parents were young, they moved to Pembroke because my father worked in the area. So I had a foot here, and I had a foot in Rhode Island, and Rhode Island is kind of where I got the bug for the jewelry and the metal.
Nice. Yeah. So when did you know you wanted to be an artist? Was it super early on?
I guess, yeah. I think I've always wanted to be an artist. I mean, I took art classes in school, and I always did art crafts, I haven't really considered myself an artist till lately, though. I was in the jewelry industry for a long time, costume jewelry, and I was just like the hands of a designer in that capacity as a model maker. But it wasn't until I got out on my own, and lived amongst other artists that I felt comfortable with being an artist, being called an artist.
How long do you think it took you to get there? Like, is it scary to call yourself an artist?
It was at first because, I was more an artist. And like I said, I was a tool of someone else, not really knowing that I was the whole time. So it was a coming to terms with it. Not that I was afraid of it. I just, the other model makers I worked with and learned from, I don't think they walked around like an artist. They were just jewelers or in the jewelry industry. And it wasn't until, like I said, I started my own thing. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I think I'm an artist,
I write, but I don't ever consider myself a writer. For some reason, it's scary to say that because I feel like there's that expectation. Do you feel that way?
I did for a short time. But then once you just jump in and just let go, that becomes unimportant.
Yeah.
So, call yourself an artist and write more.
Yeah. I guess there's a freedom in that.
There is. Yeah.
So speaking of jewelry, is that your favorite medium?
Yes, as long as the jewelry has a lot of texture in it. I've since gone on to table art and wall art with a lot of texture, but I was always drawn to jewelry that was big. I mean, I came up as a model maker late 80s when things were big. I worked with Anne Klein and then Chico's, and a lot of their stuff was just big and monstrous, and you can just put a lot of texture in. It wasn't all bling so much, but it was something you wanted to touch.
Yeah.
And that's what I gravitate to.
Where do you find your inspiration for that?
Inspiration, it's not like I look for it, or you got to be open to it. It's in everything.
Right.
Inspiration's in everything. And if you wait for it to find you, you're going to be looking a long time, When I feel a little empty, I just go to my bench and I start something, get into that discipline of work, and you're in it. I hear a lot about finding inspiration, and I get it. But if it's going to find me, I don't know. It's hard. It's not. I hear it a lot, and it doesn't bug me, but it takes me a while to go, wait a minute, inspiration. It's everywhere. You just, as long as you're in any particular moment, there's going to be an inspiration of some kind, positive or negative.
I love that when you said inspiration finds me. That actually makes the most sense. Yeah. Sometimes it helps not to look for it so much. Don't force it.
Yes.
I love that. So we heard a lot about the art shop from Jessie.
Yeah.
We had your friend Jessie.
That was a great interview.
Oh,
is she crazy? Is she great? She's like a thunderbolt, isn't she?
She's so much energy.
Yeah.
She's and you guys are both inspiration, just following your dream. I love that about you both. Can you just refresh our listeners just what the art shop is about?
Jessie was a painter for years. I was a jeweler for years, and we got into we're in the art scene kind of as I got into less working as an in-house model maker in Rhode Island. I got into making my own stuff, going to festivals, music festivals, and selling it, going to art and craft shows. And she was always around. She was always, popular. And if I was working on this side of the festival, I could hear her on the other side of the festival, you know. So anyway, I knew of her, and then we discovered we had mutual friends, and we finally met and got to know each other. I think we respect each other's work ethic a lot, so when, let's see, I was still working in Rhode Island during the week, and she had an opportunity to get this small shop in Plimpton. And she called me. She says, "Is this something you want to do?" And I said, "Yeah, let's try it. You know, like a little side hustle. You know, rather than lugging a tent around to show. Well, anyway, we got into that. It was this tiny place, and she put her art on the wall, and I put my jewelry in there, and the thing it exploded. People in Plimpton, of all places, love Plimpton. Not to say it's a bad place, but it's in the woods.
It's a small place.
It is, and it just took off. And we looked at each other and said, "Let's build on this," you know. And we soon outgrew that with our sites on Plymouth.
Love it.
And then I was the jewelry industry kind of left us. There are still jewelry companies in Rhode Island, but nothing like the golden age, which was over 100 years. It's all overseas now, and model makers, people who actually sculpt the original model, there's no need for them anymore because there's CAD/CAM now, there's 3D printing, there's everything's pretty much programmed rather than handmade.
Well, I'm glad you're still keeping it alive.
Yeah, and thank you, and it's people like you that are keeping it going, you know.
It's beautiful. I know I've been meaning to stop by there and take a peek, and I haven't made it over there yet. Next week, I'm gonna put it in.
All right, we'll watch for it. You won't be sorry. You're gonna love the joint.
Now it's on record, so I have to know. So under the art shop, you and Jesse have your own businesses under that. You have Coletta Craft.
Yeah.
You said the name came from a family member, correct?
Yeah, my grandfather. I grew up watching him work out of his house. He had a workshop in the basement, and that's how he made his living. He and my grandmother worked together. He was a silversmith, and he made men's rings and mountings, and I grew up watching him do that. So it was kind of the family thing. He had two sons. Well, he had 3 kids, one being my mom. He had 2 sons that became model makers, and they guided me. I was apprentices under the 3 of them. And also my grandfather's grandfather in Italy was also a jeweler. I'm 5th generation.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm the last.
You're keeping it alive. That's incredible.
Yeah. And so anyway, Coletta Craft his name was Vincent Coletta, so I took his name for my business, which at the time was freelance model making. So I worked in-house for different companies, but I'd also do designs for companies in the area too, you know. And as I got away from that, or as that got away from me, I started doing my own thing. So I just kept that name in honor of him.
So how would you characterize your art?
Yeah, it changes day to day, but I think if there's a thread throughout it, it's texture, something you want to touch. I'm playing with color. You know, being around Jessie, she's like a color Jedi, and I always, ask her, "What do you think? What do you think?" And of these 2 colors together, or whatever. But I don't use a lot of stones. Like there's not a lot of bling. I'll accent with stones. It's about the metal. When I visualize something I want to make, it's always metal. Color and everything else will come afterwards. So it's something you want to touch.
I love that because you feel like it's more real that it's coming to you. I love that.
Yeah.
So I see you on Facebook all the time. You and Jesse are constantly working, even on your days off. It's like,
yeah, we hate attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other interests you want to explore, or is this kind of just your life?
This is the thing I want to explore because it is, although I'm still making jewelry, it is so different to me. Like I said, I only recently feel like an artist. We're I wouldn't say new to Plymouth. We're going to be at our location on Court Street for it's going to be 6 years this spring. So we feel part of Plymouth. We hope we're contributing to it. But I just want to stay healthy and have some longevity and keep doing this because there's more to do. There's more I want to experience. Art like this reminds you to recognize the moments and the moments that's what life is, and I really didn't feel that working in the industry those years. I mean, I did well. I made money. I got married. I had 2 great kids who are making their way now. I mean, that was necessary, but now it's a little different. Now it's my ideas. It's a little more my expression.
You've talked a bit about Plymouth and how you hope Plymouth finds you. So it has become a hub for the arts. Like Plymouth has really embraced the arts. Why do you think that is?
No, it's always, I grew up in Pembroke, and when the family from Rhode Island would come by, we would take them to see the historical sites. But there was always a little bit of boheme in downtown. There always was that. You had to look for it, but I think it's, for a big town, downtown is still very villagey, and it's got that village charm, and I think it just draws people. There are restaurants that are year-round now. It wasn't like that when I was a kid. You get fish and chips, only so many months out of the year. But now there are great restaurants down there. There's music down there. We have the Center for the Arts, which is a great resource. A lot of shops just lean towards art and pretty, and it's not as touristy as it used to be. It's it's year-round, and it's just, Jesse and I found ourselves, when we were in Plimpton, after work, we just head to Plymouth because things were happening, So we're like, this is where we want to be. As far as the South Shore goes, that's where there's a decent buzz in Plymouth.
So what would be your advice for other artists out there? Or just maybe getting started or afraid to get started? Yeah,
do the work. Just do the work. Find structure. Make a schedule for yourself. It doesn't have to be strict. Again, find the things you like once you've set up some kind of schedule. You have to do the work. You have to get down there. You got to dig. Like I said, you can't wait for things to just, okay, I'll make this. Make a schedule. It's all about the work. I can't stress that enough. We have a lot of artist friends, and they're wonderful. And you'll see a piece from them a year, 2 pieces from them a year. And again, they're wonderful, and that's what they're comfortable in. But I could never work like that. I have to keep at it because I'm finding a lot of joy in it. And so just do the work.
Joy, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So what do you think the future holds for you?
More of what I'm doing, I hope. Again, this is the future I was hoping for, years ago as far as working, I've had a lot of joy in my life. Like I said, I had 2 kids and everything like that. But I don't know. I'm expressing myself in a way that I never thought I would, with the skills I have.
I love that. My grandfather always said, if you love what you do, you'll never have to work a day in your life.
I've heard that. Yeah.
When I look at you, I feel that.
Yeah.
You go to vacation every day.
Kind of, yeah. We don't find ourselves in Aruba once a year. We're not going places. I mean, we do field trips, but I want to be at the art shop making things. And when I'm home, I'm making things at home, No, this is it for now. And I want to see where that takes me, Yeah.
And we want you to keep making all the things.
Thanks, Tiff.
Eddy Murray, it has been such a pleasure.
Thank
you for coming on Open Here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to switch gears and bring you a little slice of entertainment as Dave and I talk about some pretty unlikely romantic movies. Have a listen. Dave,
Hi,
it's
Tiffany.
you and me doing our thing.
The cult movie geeks.
Oh my gosh. Dave, it's been a while. I don't even talk to you in the hallway anymore because things have been so busy.
Yeah, true. Very true. Well, we've been busy, It's just how it is.
Yeah, we're
I'm
both.
not seeing too many movies.
I know. Anyway, so we are going to talk about unconventional romantic films.
Yes.
But not really romantic films. They just happen to have romance in them.
I think just because, Valentine's Day is coming up, it's not far. And let's face it, there is no shortage of romantic comedies. We've seen them all too many times. And the archetypes and the concepts of meet cute or by happenstance, the idea that, one character does wrong, so they make this big grand gesture that humiliates themselves, it's been done to death. So I always felt that, sometimes you need to mess with the genre. And yes, every film has romance in some respects or another. But the 2 films I picked were romantically driven, but they're also cult movies. So the first one was So I Married an Axe Murderer with Mike Myers.
I love Mike Myers, first of all. Can we talk about Mike Myers?
Of course.
He's a wonderful human. And he's a nice guy, too. Happens to be a nice guy, but he plays these really cool roles. Got a start on SNL. He's just a fantastic character actor. But this was kind of like a straight role for him, correct?
Well, he's outside of his element. He's not Wayne Campbell. He's not any SNL character.
Right.
Of course, he's comedy. or of course he's being, comic, but he is acting outside his comfort zone. He's
Right.
actually acting.
Right.
And it's a great idea. Plus, I mean, the title itself says it all. Axe murderer.
Now I get it. Like, we know what the movie's about based on the title. Can you give a little bit of a description?
The premise is about this commitment-phobic poet named Charlie Mackenzie who lives in San Francisco. How he's able to afford this place in San Francisco and his salary, I don't know. But basically, he's commitment-phobic, and then he meets the woman of his dreams, Harriet. But not in a coffee shop, in a butcher shop, because she owns and operates a butcher shop. They essentially meet cute, they court each other, and then Charlie, either a result of his paranoia or his commitment issues, he starts to suspect that his girlfriend may not be the perfect woman. She might, in fact, literally be a killer. So Charlie is kind of on the fence. Does he really want to stay with this woman? Is she really who he thinks she might be, or is she just, a victim of happenstance, so to speak? But it's Mike Myers. He wrote it. And you've got all the offbeat elements that make Mike Myers' comedy. And that's what I love about it. That, and it's set in San Francisco,
Right.
really in a pre-Silicon Valley social media age. There's no Twitter. There's no Google. This is San Francisco as it is then. It's a bohemian-friendly city, and its identity really shows up on screen. And it was shot exclusively in San Francisco, which is what I love about that film so much.
So why choose this movie for an unconventional romance?
Well, I mean, as you know, I've seen way too many movies. And romantic comedy tends to fall into line with a lot of other predictable cliches. I mentioned before the whole meet cute concept, the built-in, baked-in drama, the listening to your friends or family about what's wrong about this person and not listening to your own gut instincts. So I Married an Axe Murderer just went against the grain. I mean, one, it's Mike Myers, and I remembered him from SNL, and of course I'm going to want to watch him. But it's also for the fact that it's a Mike Myers film, and it feels like an SNL film, and it's not really an SNL film. I mean, of course, you had a cameo by Phil Hartman who steals his scenes, but you also had cameos by Charles Grodin, Stephen Wright, all these, great comic actors. And it just sort of plays into this whole offbeat element of the movie that just makes it so charming.
Yeah.
And I mean, on top of that, Mike Myers is kind of keeping this subgenre alive of when comic actors played more than one character.
Right.
And this predates Austin Powers. Pardon my language, he's not playing Fat Bastard. He's playing Stuart Mackenzie, the boorish Scottish father of Charlie. He's playing two roles. And he's the only other actor of his time besides Eddy Murray, who was appearing in Coming to America and Vampire in Brooklyn. They're really the only two actors at the time who were kind of embodying the Peter Sellers style of comedy, playing more than one character and be funny. And of course, Murphy and Myers would later work together in Shrek, as we all know it.
Right.
But that's what I love about So I Married an Axe Murderer. On top of that, it's San Francisco, and the cinematography is gorgeous.
It really is.
Yep.
I mean, and it's definitely a cult film. Like, there's not. You don't hear a lot of people talking about So I Married an Axe Murderer.
There's a very small, passionate subset that
Yes.
really appreciates that film.
But I
I'm
think
one of them.
as like those, have you ever seen like the 80s and 90s groups that go on Facebook and they start releasing core memories? And I think that people will start seeing that film pop up in those like weird Facebook groups and be like, oh, I remember that movie. Let me watch it
I'm
again.
going to make us feel old. It's going to be turning 30 this year because it came out in 1993. I'm sorry, but I had to mention that.
No, you didn't.
But that's what I love about So I Married an Axe Murderer is that you're right. It becomes part of this, bygone era. And on top of that, a lot of theatrically released studio comedies don't get released anymore.
Right.
And Sorry Married an Axe Murderer was funded by a major studio. That was 30 years ago. Now you're not going to see it. Now it'll be on streaming.
Right.
It just doesn't have the same punch. And therefore, I don't think it builds up its cult movie reputation like it can now.
Speaking of cults, let's go to the sci-fi for my pick.
Okay.
All right. X-Files, Fight the Future. Now, everyone may know X-Files as a TV show, a brilliant TV show about two FBI agents who talk about and hunt down the paranormal, the files that no one wants to talk about, the X-Files, if you will. Now, they had their first movie was Fight the Future because it's Fox, and Fox has to, capitalize on everything.
Yes.
So the X-Files is this incredible movie about Mulder and Scully and their kind of adventures to find some more paranormal. But I am a huge Mulder and Scully shipper, always have been. It was my first fandom, so I always have a really strong attachment to these folks. And it was just 9 years of foreplay. That's basically all it was.
It's a great series, though.
It's a great series.
And if you're doing cosplay, it's really not that expensive. You don't have any elaborate costumes.
I've done it. I took a luggage tag and made an FBI badge.
Respect. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Just dropping that little tidbit of information. But yeah, they have the best chemistry, and they kept it going for a really long time. And I guess in real life, Dave Duchovny and Gillian Anderson didn't really get along until like 7 years ago, and they got together again for like the reboot. They were not fans of each other at all.
Really, and they weren't that long.
I know, and it's weird because like their relationship definitely was so filled with chemistry on screen.
Well, that's the thing. That movie, if you really, I rewatched it again recently. Yeah. There is a sexual tension throughout that whole series.
Yeah.
And then when you come close to realizing it in this film, then we know what happens. It doesn't happen because she gets kidnapped.
It's the stupid bee. It's the bee. So there's this scene where Mulder and Scully like, you're my constant. You're mine. You're my rock. Blah, blah, blah. And they're in the hallway and they're just about to kiss. And all of a sudden, Scully gets stung by a bee. And it's a bee's infected with something, so she goes down and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, so I don't want to ruin the whole movie, but I might have.
Holds up.
It really does. Yes. And I think, I don't know, I always just think that these strange people with these very weird lives who kind of lived outside the grid, they relied on each other. They loved each other. They were friends first, partners second, and then like lovers in the,
whatever. The follow-up.
It's a beautiful love story. Anyway, but I digress. Your turn.
Okay, so leaning in, we would go with Shaun of the Dead.
Love Shaun of the Dead. First of all, zombie movies.
Oh, it's a great movie. Also goes with So I Married an Axe Murderer. It's a combination of the romantic comedy. A guy screws up with his girlfriend, and then he goes to win her back. It just happens to be a zombie apocalypse affects London.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's really a breakthrough for Edgar Wright. You know, he came off Spaced, and then he was teaming up with this team of Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. And they essentially made the Cornetto and Blood trilogy with Hot Fuzz and World's End. But the plot of Shaun of the Dead is basically this 29-year-old electronics retail worker. He has the love of his life. He messes up, and he's kind of at a crossroads with his life where he could be doing more, but he doesn't. Of course, zombies invade London. He sets out to save her with false pretenses because he wants her back. And he and his best friend and his girlfriend and her friends scavenge across London to try and survive.
Yeah.
Just as zombies invade England. But, Edgar Wright, I think, represented a new generation of directors where he is taking his love of genres that he grew up on, like us, and he's repackaging them, not as setups, but as just loving homages. Shaun of the Dead is a tribute, really, to Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead.
Yep.
And it's great, and even George Romero himself loved it.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about Shaun of the Dead.
What's your favorite scene from that movie?
I'd probably have to say when they use Queen's Don't Stop Me Now at the jukebox.
Oh my gosh.
That's a masterful scene.
So good.
I can't think of a more appropriate choice.
There's this scene where they have to mimic walking like zombies, and they line up and they're just like trying to like look at them and be like, okay, and model their behavior after them, and they do it. And they just start walking. And I don't know why, but it cracks me up every time I see it.
And I have to do a shout out to the record scene. When they're throwing the records at zombies. That is a fantastic scene.
It's a great scene. So. But too bad, it took the zombie apocalypse for them too.
Right. But it worked. And I think it influenced a lot of other later films like Enemy Apocalypse and Warm Bodies. Shaun of the Dead was a zombie romantic comedy.
I love it. Yes. Just goes to show you. Just go now, because you never know when there could be a zombie apocalypse. Go for the girl. Go for the guy. Go for the partner. Just do it.
And now you have a great choice.
I had to do it. I didn't want to, but I had to.
No, it was a great choice.
Harold and Maude.
It's classic.
It's a classic movie. Mm-hmm. It really is, but it's kind of bananas. So it's about this kid who is just weird. There's no other way to describe it. He's a weird guy. He's morbid. He's fascinated with death. He even tries to stage like fake suicide attempts. It's a very dark movie. And I apologize. Again, this is kind of a triggering thing, so I apologize if anybody exit now. So yeah, he's very fascinated by death and like tries to get the attention of his mom. Finds this woman that he befriends. She's in her 80s, late 80s.
Ruth Gordon,
one of the most incredible.
I believe she's from Quincy, actually.
Oh my God, that's so right.
Yep.
I totally forgot about that. But anyway, they kind of fall in love, and and everyone I've ever watched the movie with has been like, this is disgusting. Like, I can't. But I just. They're two. He's not even a kid. He's an adult.
He's a young man,
let's put that out there now, to make it less creepy than it is. But they fall in love, and it just kind of shows you that relationships don't have to follow a certain rule or expectation. There can be age gaps. And also, Granny, get it. I mean,
it's a great movie. Going into what you're saying, it's kind of an anti-establishment movie.
Yes.
But it's also an optimistic film.
yes.
I mean, Ruth, for all her wants and needs, she doesn't care about what people think of her. She just does her
No.
own thing, and she convinces Harold to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's got a great message.
Yeah.
It's really the celebration of life and death.
It really is.
That's what's so great about it.
If you can just look beyond the massive age gap,
Right.
you just have to kind of put and I like that because it kind of trains your brain to go further. Like you can just expand your horizon a little bit and think about the constraints of society and what works and what doesn't. And like, you can fall in love with anybody, Two consulting adults can fall in love, and it's good. And then that's okay. It doesn't matter if you're 56 and they're 22. Just do it.
Well, as part of
Fall
an
in
era
love.
in New Hollywood where genres were, upending the system from the golden age of Hollywood to give us New Hollywood with The Exorcist and Star Wars. And this is one of those films that it looks at it from the human condition angle. And that's what I love, is because not only is it from the human condition angle, but these are characters that are essentially outsiders of society.
Right.
That are just trying to find their own way like the rest of us.
Exactly.
It's got a great message to it.
Well put.
Yes.
Dave, it's been awesome.
We could go on for hours.
We could go on for hours, but we
Right.
have like 15 minutes.
Yes.
It's what we do. Dave, thank you so much. We'll have to do this again sometime soon. We'll
Thank
come
you,
up with
Tiffany.
another fun topic. This has
course.
been a blast. Thank you. Thanks so much, Dave, for nerding out with me. I also want to, of course, thank the one and only Eddy Murray for being our guest today. Always a pleasure chatting with you. And of course, I want to thank you for giving us a listen. You've been listening to Open Here, a podcast produced by Plymouth Area Community Television. PAC TV is the community media provider for the Massachusetts towns of Plymouth, Pembroke, Kingston, and Duxbury. To see more of our content, visit pactv.org. I'm Tiff Phillips. Thanks for tuning in. Let's hang out again soon. Hi friends, if you like this video by The Local Scene, share the love and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe.